do you guys want to transition to the next segment here?
Let's do it.
All right. It So with opening week of the IHSA, instead of doing our prospect of the week, we are each going to select a state champion. Our prediction for state champions from Class 1A through 4A. So we'll see. We'll see how we do at the end of the year on this. This will be interesting. But I feel pretty good about my picks. I don't know about you guys. I'm feeling pretty confident.
Well, I want to jump in here and put the disclaimer that we decided as a group to not choose the same team. So we're all going to have 4 different teams for each class. So I did want to throw that out there. And then how do we want to do this? Do we want to go like
Probably
by class and all of us just go around the horn? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. So
I'll
Drew,
start
you
with
wanna
my
kick us
1A.
off? Yeah.
I'm going to start with Route Catholic. They're a team that I feel like has been knocking on the door. They were 30-6 in 2023, and then last year they went 33-8. They've got plenty of talent up and down that roster, but I love the left-handed Brady Turner, strike thrower, easy. To have a left-hander kind of leading the way on the mound, especially when you start talking about like 1A, man, if you can have 2-3 arms, like you're gonna do some damage. So Route Catholic, that's my pick to click here at 1A.
I'll go here. Father McGivney. Now, I know it wasn't a draft, but I can't believe that I got them. They were 34-5 last year. I mean, they have one of the more like stacked lineups, regardless of class. Really, I mean, Omar Avalos, he's a sophomore that we really like. Super dynamic, super athletic kid. He'll run down fly balls and control that outfield for them. Cannon Camp going to SIUE. Drew Kleinheider going to SLU. Justin Turhart going to UMSL. Then they got Mason Holmes going to Hendricks, and then they got more names throughout, like Isaac Wendler. He's a 2A that we've liked. Scott Phelps, Grant Reed, Ben Sink. I mean, they're just loaded. So it felt, feel pretty comfortable going with them.
Then I'll hop in. My pick is Harvest Christian. Listen, they lost to Ottawa Marquette last year 1-0 in the playoffs. Like they were that close to, who knows, maybe being the state champion last year. So right out of the gate, their top 2 arms, Obed Lopez and Jamison Rapinchuk, like both those guys, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year they're both in the 90s or at least touching 90 on the mound. Like to have that type of arm talent in the 1A class is a luxury. They've also got a guy like Kyle Zeeble who's going to just set it and forget it, put him at shortstop. He's going to play good defense for those arms. And then they've also got a guy like Ben Mitchell behind the plate who's going to Lakeland, can really hit as well. He's got some big-time juice. So he'll also likely be their closer this spring. So, man, they've got some good talent coming through there for a 1A school.
You're making me want to change my pick. Jeez, that's loaded.
Can't have them.
And I'm going to go here then, Def, with Ottawa Marquette. They returned everybody but 3 guys from last year's 31-win team who won the 1A state title and the Tri-County Conference. Coach Hopkins always has those boys ready to play. They always are going to win a ton of games. And when you've got a guy like Alec Novotny who just continues to get better, especially on the mound, yeah, they just have a ton of depth in that lineup. And we've seen a lot of guys that this preseason that we like. So yeah, this Ottawa Marquette team to me is probably going to win state, but we'll see.
All right. So getting on my 2A pick to click this year, I will say it was hard. I've got some love for Coach Haley over there at St. Joe Ogden. I did not end up choosing them. I'm going to Teutopolis. Teutopolis was 23-12 last year. They lost. One of the reasons that I really wanted to choose them was they lost to St. Anthony last year in the sectional final 2-1. So that was the 2A state title winner last year. There's some unfinished business there, kind of like what I talked about with Lincoln Way West and Pravi, how they lost to them in the sectional final. Teutopolis, same thing. They're going to be motivated. They've got a bunch of arms. You talked about it with like Harvest Christian having Obed Lopez, Jamison Rapinchuk, but they've got Austin Boris, Gavin Addis, like they've got Mick Niabrugi, who was listed, kind of in like their top 6, and he's a big physical body that's upper 80s. It's like you don't see too many schools at the 2A level with those kind of arms. I feel like they're going to be, well-rounded enough positionally. They're going to have some 2A guys like Austin Boris is going to be, hitting in the middle of their order and some stuff like that. But I'm going to go with Teutopolis. 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 I'm going to go I think Coach Fleener does a great job at Teutopolis. Like they are always a tough team, and I'm going to top. I'm going the wooden shoes this year for 2A.
If we were doing a mascot draft, I would have probably taken them.
Yeah.
I almost went St. Joseph Ogden too, actually, but I went Columbia. There's just a lot to like with them. They went 24-8, and they got a ton of seniors coming back. I'm just going to kind of go down the list here. Cash Bailey coming back, hit 330. Sully Benaldi hit 270. Logan Bosch hit 276. Micah James hit 350. Jack Schoentag hit 320. Mason Vagley, brother of Dom, hit 270. Sam Darnold, 1.8 ERA. Brady Hemminghaus, 1.2 ERA. And then they got Brody Landgraf, future gamer for us, hit 291 last year. So, and he's a sophomore, or I'm sorry, a junior. He was a sophomore last year. So, ton of senior talent, and then with Brody Landgraf as well, Creighton commit. I think they are loaded, and I'm pretty confident in them going in this year.
And if I remember right, I think Landgraf was actually hurt a little bit of the season too. I don't think he played a complete season because I saw him at the Kickoff Classic.
Yeah, he only had 13
and then
RBIs.
I think he got hurt shortly
yeah,
after that
seems
too.
right.
So,
And I just think 291 for him, like you can go ahead and add 100 points to that and say that's the over-under line to his batting average this year.
yeah.
For me, 2A, I'm going with Wilmington. They got third at state last year. They went 28-2. Another team that brings back essentially a lot of that same roster. They're going to have Lucas Rink and Kyle Farrell at the top of that rotation, who are both going to go play college ball after this year. And like for me, if I was writing this team up, like I think a real X factor is Cooper Holman, who was a big winner for me personally at our preseason All-State. Like they may only need him to be their 3 this year. So a big luxury there. So I'm going with Wilmington for my 2A state champ.
Yeah, and then for me, I think this is actually just looking at this now. It's kind of boring that I'm doing this. 1A, I picked Ottawa Marquette, who won last year, and then for 2A, I'm picking St. Anthony, who also won last year. But it is tough to not pick them. I mean, they bring back Brock Fearday, Brady Hatton, and Aiden Lauritsen, who were all big contributors to their team last year. And I mean, Fearday's a really good arm to have in 2A. But yeah, I think they're going to be a good team again this year. And I kind of some of the dark horses I wanted to mention for 2A as teams that could also be in, because I had a tough time with this. Like 2A is always one of those, and 1A are kind of harder sometimes to pick because there will be those kind of random teams that just come through that maybe didn't have a great record going into the postseason, and then they just come out and have a really good postseason and get to state, and maybe we didn't know a ton about them prior. But some of those other teams I've got is Rock Ridge, Pleasant Plains, Teutopolis, Wilmington, and Tremont as some of my dark horses in 2A.
I'm loving the Rock Ridge call out and the Tremont call out. Like both those programs have a ton of talent for being a 2A. Yeah, that's solid. Is it back around to me already?
Yep, 3A,
All right.
Drew.
All right, we're starting 3A. So, a part of this has been a little unfinished business here. I think Morris has a little unfinished business, but that's who I'm going with 3A. They were 30-4 last year, made it to state. I saw one of their, 4 losses down at the Kickoff Classic, and it was a game where they were throwing a different arm every inning. It kind of like showed off the depth that they had by getting to see all those different arms and what it may be, but just a very deep club with, some star power at the top with Jack Wheeler. But it's a lot of college players that are back with experience on the mound. You've got Brett Bounds. You've got Colin Pfeiffer, a left-hander. You've got Jack Wheeler, who could start or pitch out of the bullpen. You've got Merrick Clicker. And then positionally, like good up the middle is what I'm looking for. You've got Griffin Zwiers behind the plate. Very, very good catcher, can handle the staff, can also swing the bat. It's in the middle of their order. And then you got Zemi Baftiri playing shortstop. I think he's, one of the probably more underrated shortstops, and it may be even by us. Probably a guy that maybe is just a little underrated that we need to continue to give quality looks at. But I think they go about their business the right way. I think they're going to be hungry. Jack Wheeler coming off a big basketball season as well, where I know he's one of the best basketball players to come through Morris. I'm excited to see what they do this year.
I'll move on to St. Lawrence here. 31-6 last year. it's tough not to like them year in and year out. I mean, they're always going to be, they're one of those schools that's always well coached, kind of like, in my mind, like a JCA type, well disciplined. They won their conference, though. They won the Chicago Catholic Blue. So that's, I mean, arguably the toughest conference in the state. They won their regional. They lost in the sectional semifinal. But yeah, I mean, kind of like we mentioned earlier, they got a good 1-2 punch, and then they got arms behind that with Benson, Enrique Villanueva, Joseph Torres, Ryan Walschlager, the Pepperdine commit. Then we got some two-ways that'll throw for them too with Daniel Coyle, Corey Less, and Mickey Lotus. But there's a lot of pieces that I like in the lineup. With, like I just said, Daniel Coyle and Corey Less. Less a Louisville commit. Coyle still uncommitted, but one of the better bat-to-ball guys in the state. And we really like Corey Less as well. Mickey Lotus was one of the bigger standouts for me from the preseason All-State. Switch hitter, I really like the swing. I think he'll be like a perfect table setter for them. Throughout in the top of the lineup, and then we got like Connor Marino, Ben Geary, who we've liked a lot in the past, Adrian Perez, Enrique Villanueva, like I said already, Danny Donovan, and John Medina. So just a lot of names we like, and they got depth beyond that too, with like Aiden Guerrero going to McHenry County. So just a lot of names, and we know they'll be well coached.
Just going off the theme of Drew here with the unfinished business, for me it's Lamont. I'm taking Lamont to win 3A this year. 31-10. They lost the state championship game by 1 run. They were right there on the doorstep. I'm sure they're going to be very, very hungry to get back there and get the job done this year. But man, I just really like what they've got roster wise. Whether it's Gladbach on the mound and in the lineup, but like Jacob Parr, right? Big time left-handed hitter like Drew was talking about earlier. So for me, I have a hard time looking past Lamont for 3A.
Yeah, and then mine, I've got Joliet Catholic. They're just a team that's always good no matter the roster. Coach Voss, like you guys were talking about earlier, always does a good job with them. And then him, like you mentioned, they've got a plethora of arms that will be tough for any team that's facing them.
All right, we just had a late 4A switch by me.
Uh-oh.
I'm making sure I didn't choose one of your schools here real quick. No. Perfect. So sticking with the unfinished business, I'm going with Lincoln Way West. And I think what really sold me and pushed me over the edge was as we were talking about them today. Like Connor Essenberg leading the way on the mound, but with the bat as well. And then you've got Michael Pettit, who I love, left-hander. I think he's one of the top juniors in the state. But then as your 3 being Lucas Acevedo. Who come playoff time, if you're throwing out 2 lefties, Essenberg and Pettit, you're starting them, and then you're backdooring them with Lucas Acevedo coming out of the pen, throwing the slider that he's got and the changeup. I think that's going to be really tough come playoff time. I think they're going to be hungry. I think they've got that unfinished business. I'm going Lincoln Way West.
Good call. But I'm going to go with Providence Catholic. I mean, they have historically liked to win multiple in a row, so it's hard to go against that. They won 3 in a row, 14, 15, and 16, so I like their chances, especially, bringing back basically everybody. But, I mean, just looking at Cooper Eggert, he was 3rd-team All-State last year, Nathan O'Donnell, 1st-team All-State for us, and then Enzo Infelice winning Tyler's preseason Player of the Year award that we might have to, start throwing around more. I like them. I like them a lot, so I got high hopes for them.
For me, I'm going McHenry. Listen, we touched on the having, really good top 2 arms. Man, Shannon and Wisniewski, I think come playoff time are going to be really, really hard to beat. The way both of those guys have continued to get better with each watch. Like, Wisniewski's only a sophomore, but I saw him pitch in the playoffs last year, and no moment is too big for that kid. So for me, like they went 30-8 last year. And they got knocked out by Ryan Sloan last year, or else they might have been playing for state. So they were right there on the doorstep, and I think they get the job done this year.
And then to round this out here, I've got Edwardsville. They return a ton of pitching, probably the deepest pitching staff in the state. Joe Trotto's healthy again. He's back for the full year. And then positionally, they just look really talented again. Coach Funkhauser knows how to coach in the playoffs, and I just think they're gonna take it all again in 4A this year. So I got Edwardsville